everybody knows that self-interest is the most important thing. People will tell you it's not good, blah, 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 but it's just a lie. Everybody knows self-preservation, self-interest is what you do. The problem is how we understand the definition of self. If we understand the self as something that has nothing to do with our family, then the way that we act for our self-interest will not benefit our family at all. It's not that you can get a being to not have self-interest. To be a self means to have self-interest. But how you can comprehend the self is the important part. If you comprehend yourself as a part of a marriage, then all of your self-interest will express itself in ways that benefit the marriage, because the marriage is part of you. If you comprehend yourself as a part of a family, then your self-interest will benefit the family. If you comprehend yourself as part of a community, then your self-interest will naturally benefit the community. Ultimately, if you comprehend yourself as a manifestation of Hari, then your activities will be directed towards benefiting Hari, and you'll benefit because you're part of Hari. So he says, Atmaika bhavena, having the bhava or the mood that Atmaika, that you have one soul. Hari and the self are one soul. Atmaika bhavena bhajadtam. Then with that mood, you should worship. Adha, directly, not indirectly. Many times people will say, it's all one soul, these things are all God, so let me worship anything. It doesn't work that way. The mouth is the mouth. The hand and the mouth are connected. But the mouth is the mouth, you feed the hand. And you don't feed the hand, you feed the mouth. And then the hand benefits. The root is the root, the leaves are the leaves, they're part of one tree. But you don't water the leaf, you water the root. So that's why he's saying, Adha, you should, knowing that you're one with Hari, but there's some distinction in that you're the extension and he's the root. Therefore, you should direct your attentions to him. That's Narada's explanation of self-realization. How to realize the self. Really, self-interest is natural and it's the most undeniable thing. So if you just understand the true self, then you'll be fine. The true self, he explains, is Hari. So you should make your endeavors please Hari. Now the question is, how? So he's going to now explain that. Dayaya sarvabhuteshu. How do you worship Hari? It is related to all of Hari's manifestations. How do you take care of a tree? Yes, you water the root, but what, do you burn the branches? You take care of the branches and the leaves too. So this is what Dayaya Sarvabhuteshu means. Sarvabhuteshu means all of the manifestations, all of the creatures, all of the people. Dayaya, be kind to them. Be nice to them, be good to them. Dayaya Sarvabhuteshu Santushtya Yena Kenava. And as for yourself, be satisfied. Somehow or other. Santushtya Yena Kenava. Sarvendriyo Pashantyacha. That will chill you out. Tushtantyashu Janardana. And this will please Janardana. So this is interesting. He says, how would you worship the source of all beings? He says Janardana, which means the source of all beings, can be adored by pacifying one's own senses. Sarvendriya Upashantya. Upashanti. It is impossible to actually pacify desire. If you could pacify desire, then desire would be boring. Desire is always the motivating factor. If you could actually fulfill it and pacify it, then you would never have more, and then you would have nothing else to do. It would be like a game that you finish. You don't play it anymore. So the very nature of desire is that it's insatiable, but you can upashanti. You can actually get the feeling of satisfaction without extinguishing it. So he says, Sarvendriya upashantyacha. Indriya is the senses, all the senses, upashanti. So first of all, since you're a part of Hari, take care of yourself. Placate your senses, don't exaggerate your senses. There's a difference. If we think that the sensual manifestation of ourself is the root of ourself, that's not going to be good. That's like mistaking a leaf for a root. The sensual manifestation of the self, which is the body, is a extension of the self. So take care of it as far as you can. Upashantya. Don't exaggerate the needs of it. Shanti does not mean to cater to or dedicate yourself to, but it means to pacify. So your senses want a cupcake, so give it a cupcake, so eat a cupcake. But don't, make your senses want more than a cupcake. Just give it a cupcake, make it happy, and focus on something else. This is his advice as far as taking care of the basic sensual needs. Santushtya yena kena va. What about the parts that you can't get? You want a cupcake and there's no cupcake in the house. Now, this is where it gets exaggerated or not. If it's not easy to satisfy the senses, then just try to be satisfied anyway. That's exactly what it's saying. Santushtya means satisfaction. Generally, you'll get satisfaction. If you want a cupcake, you find a cupcake, you eat a cupcake, then you get santusht. So usually you get santushti, which means like satisfied, after you fulfill some desire. But actually, you don't even need to fulfill the desire to get satisfaction. You can let go of the desire and get satisfaction. Big news alert. It actually works. So when the desire is difficult to fulfill, then don't cause alarm and emergency in your life. That's not shanti. That's not peace. If in the case where you can't fulfill desire, then let it go. Let it go. Be the snow princess. What's her name? In Frozen. Not Zelda. Elsa. Santushtya yena kenava. Somehow or other, just focus on something else and just be satisfied. What should you actually focus on? Daya sarvabhuteshu. That's how to please Hari. When you're not in a frame of reality where you're directly interacting with Hari. We're not currently in that perceptive state where we're actually directly experiencing Hari. We're only seeing the roots. We're not seeing the roots. We're only seeing the branches and the leaves. So he's explaining how to take care of the branches and the leaves in a way that will make you come into the frame of reality where you can interact with the root. So what he's saying is the source of all beings can be adored by pacifying one's own senses. This can be done by using them to do compassionate things for all beings and trying to be content with whatever does or doesn't happen. Pacifying one's own senses is done by using them, daya sarvabhuteshu, to do good stuff for people. It will pacify the senses. It keeps them active. They complain if they're inactive. Everybody gets bored. If your senses are inactive, they'll complain. So engage them in doing good things, things which benefit people. Daya sarvabhuteshu. And then, who cares if they like you for it or dislike you for it? Who cares if it works, if it doesn't work? Just try your best. Santushta yena kena va. That will cause sarva indriya upashantya. And that causes, when your senses are pacified, then Janardana feels tushti. He feels satisfied. people have this idea, I hear this a lot, well, God and I are the same. So if I eat a cupcake, it's devotion to God. It is sort of. It's the beginning. But don't exaggerate the needs of the external things. Actually, it's better not to focus on pleasing yourself, but to please others. And be satisfied with whatever results. That will put you less in the lusts and selfish frame of mind, and more in the love, selfless frame of mind. The love, selfless frame of mind is the frame of mind which we can perceive Hari. The lust, selfish frame of mind is the frame of mind where the self stands in front of Hari and eclipses. Anil asks, can we have anything close to contacting Hari? Yeah, why not? If you touch a tree, are you close to touching the roots? Yes. So just be aware of that. That Daya Sarabhutishu, if you're taking care of your daughter, if you're taking care of your son, if you're taking care of your spouse, if you're taking care of your neighbor, if you're taking care of your parents, just be aware that they're branches of the root from Hari that will put you into the right frame of mind. That will lead you to more direct experience. Okay, that's close. How can you let go of desire, Gladys? Yes, you don't. Like I say, you can't let go of desire. Desire is good. Desire motivates action. Action is good. You don't want to let go of desire. You want to make the desire good desire, profitable desire, beneficial desire. It's all desire is always based on self-service. So that's also fine. You just want to have the correct definition of the self. You don't need to let go of desire. It's just impossible. If you let go of desire, the only way you can possibly do that is to erase yourself. Because to exist and to experience is concomitant with having desire. Just as the sun is concomitant with sunlight, desire is concomitant with consciousness. So don't try to erase desire unless you think it's really cool to commit suicide, because that's what you'll be doing. And not just in a temporary sense, but in a permanent sense. Try to make desire something fruitful by having the correct understanding of self. Aparna says, many texts, including Mahabharata, say desire is the root of all problems. No, Buddhists say desire is the root of problems. Hindus never say this. Maybe the bridge between Hinduism and Buddhism, which is monism, maybe they flirt with the idea. But desire is not the root of the problem. Ignorance is the root of the problem. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of self. When there's ignorance of self, then the desire will be useless. It will cause bad outcomes because it won't be able to serve the self. How does desire relate to attachment is another question. It's the same, isn't it? You become attached to the thing which fulfills your desire. I think desire is the basis for attachment. Anil asks, how should one deal with frustrated desires? Your desires are useless anyway. Why should you waste time being frustrated about them? You don't have an accurate concept of the self. So even if you fulfill your desire, it's just going to be nonsense. So just let go of your frustrated desire. You don't even need that crap. But you need frustrated desire and non-frustrated desire are both useless when there's ignorance of the self. What do you get by fulfilling your desire and unfrustrating your desire? Nothing, absolutely nothing. 5 milliseconds of peace. So just let go of your frustrated desires. You don't need it in the first place. It was a dumb idea that you needed this in the first place. Mary, how can one find a balance where you give an appropriate amount of yourself but not too much? Well, allowing people to walk on you is not considered low self-esteem and not particularly healthy. Do you think that it is good to enable somebody to commit a crime? In fact, I will go to jail. I could go to jail if I drive somebody to a bank so they can rob the bank. Right? I could also go to jail. So do you think it's good to let people do bad things to you? Is it good for them? Also, by not only does it harm yourself, but by driving the person to rob the bank, that person gets arrested and goes to jail. Great, you did a nice favor for your friend. You got them put in jail. So do you think that it's good to let people mistreat you? That's a mistake. If you actually care about people, you will not let them mistreat you. Here we're at the second stage. Thus, diffusing all other passions, the pure self can then seek the infallible with ever-increasing evocative emotion. So what happens is you pacify your own senses. It diffuses your passions. Pacification makes things less intense. When the passions of the sensual world decrease, passion doesn't go away. It directs itself towards something more fundamental, towards something more rooted. It directs itself more towards the inner self and towards Hari. So he says, by thus diffusing all other passions, the pure self can then seek the infallible with ever-increasing evocative emotion. Then he says, Nija Janavasa Gatvam Apanoyan, which is a beautiful thing. He says, submitting himself to the wishes of those who are his, he never leaves them, like space never leaves any other element. So the initial stage of sadhana or practice of worship, etc., was described in Dayaya Sarvabhuteshu, being compassionate, acting out of compassion towards all people, and thereby pacifying one's desires. As the desires become pacified, the passions turn inward. As they turn inward, one seeks Hari with more increasing fervor, need, actual emotion, not intellectual maybes. And then as Hari is now, his personality is described, he is very indebted. This is even relevant to understanding Shravana Nakshatra. Vishnu is very indebted to people. Any forwardness towards him he feels grateful for. He's a very grateful fellow. So he actually is Nijajana Vasha Gatvam. He puts himself under the control of the people who put themselves under his control. Submitting himself to the wishes of those who are his. So as the soul starts to seek him with passion, he starts to pull the soul with passion towards him. And puts himself into the control of the soul. Then, in that state, Nasarati Chidravat, he never separates. Akshad Satamhi, just like space never separates from things. So this is also worthy of a footnote. All physical elements are evolutes from space and are contained within space and contain space within them. Okay? So for example, air is the evolute from space. It's when the sound vibrates in space, it creates air. Air is the movement in space. Movable space. That's what it is as an element amongst the 5 elements. So air will always be contained within space. You can't locate air outside of space. It's contained within space, And space will always be within air. There's space inside air. You can put things in it. Similarly, from air comes fire, because the friction of the movement of space creates heat. Fire exists within air, and air exists within space. Space exists within air, and space exists within fire. This is the relationship between Hari and self. The person who gets connected with Hari and gets fully cognizant of that inseparability. All physical elements are evolutes from space and are contained within space and contain space within them. The Supreme and the devotee realize that they have the same inseparable relationship. So there he's explained how to worship. It's with bhava. You worship with bhava, which means you're feeling your attention, your desire. Now, the next thing he's going to explain is how not to worship. What is not necessary, or what it would be distracting. This is very cool. He says, Hari is rasagya. What does rasagya mean? If there are any artists out there, you know what rasa is. Rasa is the essence of art. Rasa is the essence of beauty. Rasa is the essence of enjoyment. The artist is the chef of rasa. They try to produce rasa for the audience. If somebody's called rasagya, it means they're a connoisseur. They have high taste. Hari is rasagya, Narada Muni says. So, worshipping Hari is not simple. It's like playing music for a person that really is into music. This is because he's rasagya. There's a lot of worship which is not going to work. The basis of it all is kumanishina. If your heart, your manas, is crooked, then no matter what else you do, it's not going to please the rasagya, the person who's a connoisseur. You'll find this even in music, dance, etc. People that actually know music and dance, they know what makes a good dancer and a good musician is the heart, the expressiveness of the person. People that don't know anything about music and dance, they think that you have to practice your skills, practice your stretches. That's incidental skill. But what really makes a good artist is the heart. Similarly, what really makes a good lover is the heart, not the skill. The skill will come as a result of the heart being good. So similarly, Hari is not worshipped by external things. Hari is worshipped by the bhava, the feeling, the emotion. That's the only thing which you actually possess in the first place, is your consciousness. So your placement of your consciousness is your bhava. That's all that you can actually offer, because that's all that you are. Nabhajati kumanisham saijam harir adanat madano priyorasakya. Shruta dana kula karmanam madarye. It's not going to be worshipped by Shruta, Dana, Kula, or Karma. Those things are just madai. They just intoxicate. They're just stupid. They're just distractions. We cannot adore the source of all by any amount of Shruta, learning, wealth, Dana, sophistication, Kula, or efforts, Karma, external efforts. Such things make people proud and pompous, Madai and Kumanisha, and derisive towards good people, Satsu. They become derisive, Papam, to Satsu, to good people who do not possess such things. Hari, who knows what is truly enjoyable, Rasagya, is interested only in those who have nothing to give except their very self. He is complete in and of himself, Swapurna. You know the famous saying, what do you get a guy that has everything? That's the real problem here when you're talking about worshiping God. What do you give him? it's easy to make my daughter happy. All I have to do is give her a small amount of money and she's happy because she has no money. Because she's a kid. How do you make God happy? He's got everything already. With one thing he doesn't have, which is you, your attention. That's the most important thing. He is complete in and of himself, Swapurna. Shri, the goddess of fortune, the goddess of all wealth, follows him around. Shriyam anucharitam tadartinascha. Shri, the goddess of fortune, the goddess of wealth, all of the wealth, beauty, everything, knowledge, intelligence, everything, all the wealths in this goddess, personified as this goddess, are anucharita tadartinas, just following him around, trying to do something for him. So why should he care for the gods, anything that the gods vibhudis, or the two-footed masters, Dvipadapati, that's the humans, who follow her around? So just think of it as the goddess of fortune is following Vishnu all around, and then all these human beings and gods are trying to follow the goddess of fortune. Why should he care about them when he's got her? He doesn't need gold. He doesn't need money. He doesn't need fancy food. He's got enough of that. What he needs is your attention and your knowledge, your awareness of it. Na bhajati nija bhritya varga tantra. The final thing he says, yet he makes himself dependent on those who are dependent on him. Even though he's Swapurna and has Shriya following him around, he makes himself a Bhritya, a servant to his Bhritya, to his servant. Now Narada's going to say, who would not love this guy? The person who makes himself a servant to his own servant. Who would not love that guy? The guy who has everything but only wants your attention. That is an adorable person. So Narada says, Katamam utsrujet puman kritagya. Anybody who knows, who's kritagya, Hari is rasagya, but at least you could be kritagya, which means you know how things work. If you're actually kritagya and you know how things work, why would you udvishrajet? Why would you ignore or give up or disregard or discount that person? Why? If you know how things work, then you know that this is the best person. The person who does not need your money, the person who doesn't need your strength, the person who doesn't need your energy and your time, the person who just wants your love. Doesn't even need your love, just wants your love. And who else could it be? Nobody else can do that. You're asking everybody else in the world to do that for you. That's not fair. You can't ask me to be that person for you. You can't ask your boyfriend to be that person for you. You can't ask your girlfriend to be that person because we cannot do it. We're not Swapurna. We're not Swatantra. It's not fair to us. It's fair to him. The sadhana that you practice will determine the sadhya that you attain, or the siddhi that you attain. If you practice to be a ballerina, you'll become a ballerina. If you practice to become a samurai, you'll become a samurai. So similarly, the way that you hear about Hari and the way that you cultivate your practicing your attention on Hari will be the way that you realize Hari, which is important. If you have a desire to understand Hari in a certain way and experience Hari in a certain way, you better hear about Hari in that way, from people who understand him in that way, and practice in a way that's conducive to that. It's not that by practicing from a great distance, worshipping in a big church or something, that you're going to achieve some kind of intimate, personal relationship with Hari. The soul achieves Hari. But that goes without saying, it's obvious. But the way that it was worded highlights the fact that Hari actually also achieves the soul. The soul is a treasure. a beautiful treasure, and Hari achieves it. Hari gets it, and that delights Hari. Position. You are what you eat, but actually everything that goes into you is what you become. So the most important, even more important than your mouth, is your ears. It's the most important thing that affects what you are and how you feel is what you hear. So if you hear tales of great kings doing spiritual things, then you become like that.